When I was in 9th grade, walking to the bus stop near St. Paul, Minnesota, it was still dark out and eerily calm. No traffic, very quiet. But the second I stepped onto the street from my driveway, I felt like there was some kind of mild static electricity in the air, if that makes any sense. Anyways, my bus stop was half a block away from my house on the corner, with one streetlight above it and some pine trees and shrubs that line the street. I was looking at the ground as I walked up the hill towards the bus stop, and just before I crossed the street, I finally looked up to see if the kid I shared the bus stop with was already there. He wasn't. Instead, standing directly under the streetlight was maybe this 3.5-foot tall alien, facing its body towards me, staring at me. I stopped in my tracks and stared for a second, paralyzed with fear. This thing was like 3.5 feet tall, with grayish, bluish, whitish skin. I could see the blue veins under its skin, which seemed almost translucent or thin. No clothing, no hair at all, with no noticeable genitalia. Its head was large, with sort of a flattish top that became bulbous around the forehead area, tapered in a bit at the temple area, then bulbous cheekbone area, then tapered down to a flattish chin, and the eyes were larger and more spaced out than a human's eyes. I didn't see a nose, and the mouth was like a small slit, no lips and closed. The arms were too long for its body and hung at its sides. I guess I didn't take note of its hands. It kind of had a flat chest with small pectoral muscles, but no nipples, with a wider protruding lower stomach, wide-set hips, short legs that looked even more like how when a hooved animal stands on their hind legs, but with humanoid feet. This thing just stood there, under the streetlight facing me, and staring at me, and only 20 or 30 feet away from me. I would guess that I stood there for maybe 3 to 5 seconds staring at it, frozen with fear and confusion, trying to figure out what the fuck I was staring at. When my brain caught up with me, I ran as fast as I could back home, slammed the door shut, and was inconsolably crying and hyperventilating. My parents were confused and horrified as to what had happened to me in the 3 minutes that I was gone. My mom had to literally help me walk to the nearest chair. I didn't go to school that day. My dad stayed home because I was too scared to be alone, and after I calmed down, I took a nap and woke up fucking 8 hours later to my mom when she got home from work. It felt like I had literally just closed my eyes, and then I opened them to my mom, who had worked an entire shift at work. This is long, and hopefully I explained it well enough. The scariest day of my life. Also, when my mom was a little kid, her early teens, she had several encounters, including abduction. She hates talking about it, but my God, her stories are absolutely terrifying. My mom grew up a farm girl in rural Wisconsin who wouldn't make this shit up.
I was in primary school when this took place. I lived in central Mexico with my grandmother, cousin, my great-grandmother, my little brother, and my dog. My grandmother is a UFO fanatic. She would always look at the stars to see if she could find anything strange. She never found anything. However, one night in particular was different. My grandmother came running to the house looking for her binoculars. She said something about seeing red lights by the hills. We all went outside, including my great-grandmother. I looked up at the sky and saw these strange lights going in a slow circular motion. There were about 5 red lights. 2 were dots, and the others were getting bigger and bigger. But 2 of them disappeared along with the others. After the lights went out of sight, the 5th light started to make its way down, passing by the roof of our house. It was big. This thing looked like a stingray without a tail. There was this door at the bottom that opened up. In a panic, my grandmother told us to get back in the house. She locked the door and closed all the windows. Around noon of the next day, my grandmother and cousin had gone out. I was at home taking care of my great-grandmother who was sleeping, and my little brother who was watching TV with me. Out of nowhere, our dog started to bark like crazy. I looked out the window and see 2 men on the other side of our gate. My dog usually runs towards the front gate to scare people away, but this time she just stood by the house door. I told my brother to stay down and not to stand up. I did the same. We were on the couch, hiding. Both men didn't say anything, they just stood there waiting for someone to go outside. I guess they gave up and left. I'm not saying they were the men in black, they sure seemed off from what they were wearing. I don't know who they were. But I know for sure they weren't from our town.
I've told the story a couple times, and I just want to keep getting it out there, as it needs to be read or listened to. Bicester, UK. I had a strange experience 11 years ago, where I had this fascination out of the blue of UFOs and feeling the need to sit out there and look for them. I was 14 at the time, and UFOs or aliens, I'd never really thought about them before. I couldn't have cared less at that age either. The next day, I forced some of my family to sit out in the garden with me, under the stars on an amazing clear evening, and we sat there talking for about 10 minutes, and then I noticed a strange white light, just like a spotlight that you would get in your kitchen. Not bright, but dull in color, as if it was attached to something, like oval in shape. This is how I knew it was attached. The light slowly moved over the houses to the left of us, no noise, and stopped right in front of us, probably 100 feet in the air and about 200 feet away. Now, this is where it gets weird. I feel this strange feeling erupt in my chest, like an adrenaline rush, but it wasn't. I felt like I had lost sense of time, almost as if I was unconscious, but at the same time fixated on this light, but not actually there with my body. It's hard to explain. All of a sudden, the light brightened, and as best as I can describe the pings at a speed and acceleration I've never seen in my life, 0 to 20,000 miles per hour maybe. It's seriously fast and still no noise. I lost track of it for a second. Then something made me look up into the sky above, and then I noticed the white light, miles and miles up, as small as a star, and then zip into space, leaving a small trail of light behind it like a comet. My family said nothing to me the whole time. We all looked at each other after, and no one could say anything. I think everyone was beyond frightened that an object like that could exist. Has anyone else seen something similar?
I haven't really told anyone about this memory. It has stayed with me since it happened, what is somewhere close to a decade ago. I was probably 9. Completely normal day, and I go to sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night despite normally being a heavy sleeper. I don't know why, but I immediately decided moving even an inch would be a terrible idea. So I stay still and shut my eyes tight. I don't know why. And then I feel something. You know how you can feel what's happening around you even if you're not looking, as long as you're paying close enough attention. Imagine that. Except amplified by about 400%. I could feel 2 distinct presences in my room. Not near my door, no, but right next to my window on the opposite side of the room. I kept my eyes shut tight, but it wouldn't have mattered because it was as dark could be anyway. After remaining near my window for however long, I began to feel like they knew I was awake, and they started moving over to me. I can see their exact path that they took through my room in my mind, based on what I felt. Adrenaline-fueled heightened senses, I suppose. They both stand right in front of my bed. I'm laying on my side facing towards them. The one closer to my head bends down and gets near my face. I don't hear anything. I can only feel them. They stay like this for another short while, and I'm panicking beyond belief, concentrating on keeping my mind in check so that I can stay alive. I pray to God that they go away, and then peace. I have no idea what happened after that. I don't even remember waking up, despite this memory of the encounter and peace that followed it being extremely vivid. I had ruled it off as demons, as that falls in line with my beliefs, but after reading a few other encounters, I don't know what to think. I would not believe in aliens if not for this experience and these next ones. The same year, perhaps 5 months before or 5 months after, I was taking out the trash, and once I got to the end of my driveway and dropped off the cans, I looked up to search for the 2 dippers. as I always do. Didn't expect to see about 5 shapes in the air. One, which took up maybe 1/12 of the circumference of the sky, was composed of 4 bright lights assembling what was perhaps a trapezoid-esque shape. It was emitting what appeared to be similar to a headlight on a car, except huge, of course. It was stationary and revealed no stars behind it. To the right, there were 2 big, bright, stationary lights, seemed more like individual ships, much larger than stars. Between them was a moving assembly of 3 lights, forming a perfect triangle going up. Almost looked like it was following the 5th entity, which I think was just one of our satellites, small, fast, zipping on by. I would have thought the triangle could have been an airplane, of course, but it looked way too big for how it was moving and how far away it appeared to be. I've seen this triangular ship 2 other times as well. Once I was even with other people, though it was way too fast for anyone else to see it. I have no explanation for these events, only the vivid memories and assurance that I didn't dream them. On top of these experiences, I also noticed another similarity between me and people who claim to have been abducted. A strange fascination, almost obsession, with aliens when they were younger, which suddenly stopped, at least for a while. I have also felt that odd sensation that many others have expressed when certain things are shown or brought up. You begin shaking, quivering, and tearing up. You don't know why, but you know you have to get away from what triggered it, which in my case is 100% every time related to aliens being shown or discussed in media. It doesn't happen every time aliens are brought up, but when it happens, it's when aliens are brought up.